In this episode of the Advanced Selling Podcast, Bill fights the urge to go Rocky on his favorite barista, whose name is, wait for it, Adrian. Fact checker Doug shares a cryptic message that we need your help deciphering, and we take a great listener question about how to up your value prop game. Welcome, everybody, once again to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest-running sales training podcast in podcast history. I've obviously said something funny. My name is Brian Neal, and my co-host is losing himself next door. Hey, I can't wait to hear what you're laughing about, and I hope it's funny. This is always the pressure when someone laughs at their joke before they say the joke.
That's true.
It's great, though. I love it. Hey, if you're not in our LinkedIn group, go in our LinkedIn group. You'll know a little bit about why that is. Today, we have 12,001 members. We probably have more now. We're recording the same. It's more. Yeah, we have more than that. But we are thrilled that those of you who are in there. And I said last time, it took us 15 years to get to 12,000. All we got to do is get everybody to invite one person. We double that. So let's do that, right? So everybody invite your friend. You and a cohort, just invite them into the LinkedIn podcast group. They'll learn lots of stuff. And we're going to start delivering lots of new things there. So you need to be there. And today's one of those times. We're going to take a question from one of our listeners straight out of the LinkedIn group.
I think the thing with the LinkedIn group at 12,000 reassures us that we have about 10 to 12,000 listeners a week. That's generally what we think we have on the podcast.
We probably have more than that, but
probably more than that. But it's hard to tell from Apple because some of the stats have changed. So if you're wondering, well, how did they get 12,000? That's about how many listeners we have a week. Not saying everybody who listens is on LinkedIn group, but generally those two numbers kind of sync up.
Yeah. And the good thing is, in the LinkedIn group, most of you are like-minded and you like to learn things and share different ideas. Some of you have been selling stuff in there. Don't do that. We're going to start to police that stuff. Don't be like...
Brian's going to come and
I'm telling you. I mean, God bless you if you do, an MLM thing. I'm all for those for you and for everyone, but don't talk about that stuff in our LinkedIn group, please.
Yeah.
No
clutters
fun.
it up.
I love when people ask good questions.
Yeah.
That's the best thing you can do in the LinkedIn group is post a really great question and see what the fellow Advanced Selling Podcast listeners have to say about that.
So here's my dilemma. I sometimes hear words, and these words conjure up memories for me.
Yeah.
Which is typical.
That's common. Sure.
If you hear the word of the name of a girlfriend that you had in high school, you'd immediately go back to her and think, oh yeah, that's her. Oh yeah, Sharon. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, here's a word that I heard the other day. I walked into my Starbucks, and there was a new lady working there, and they have their names obviously on their aprons.
Yes.
And her name was Adrian.
Okay. Yeah.
When you hear the word Adrian, where do you go with
think
that?
about Rocky. Yo,
Adrian.
Yo, Adrian. That's very
And I almost
typical.
said it to her, and I thought, no, she probably gets that like 5 times a day.
Or she has no idea what you're talking about because she's
True, because she
21.
was 23.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay,
Yes,
here's another word that every time I hear, this is what I was laughing about at the beginning of the show.
Adrian.
Whenever I hear the word struggling, what do you think of?
Struggling? A time period of my life? I don't know.
No. Okay, let me restate the word in the way that this person said it.
Okay.
The saying was, he's really struggling.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you know who it is?
I think I know because I think you heard you mention him earlier. Is it Joe Namath?
Joe Namath.
It's Joe Namath.
Remember when he was drunk on TV?
Yes.
And again, we wouldn't talk about that if he weren't now sober. And
he's sober.
Fine.
He's very clean. He's a very healthy man.
Yeah, he is. But he was on TV, and he said the word struggling, and he made it like 3 syllables.
Yes.
And every time I hear the word struggling, I think,
yes,
start laughing. I don't know why,
him.
because it was so awkward. What did he say? Something like, I just want to lean over and kiss
give you a
to
kiss to Susie. What's her name?
I can't remember the announcer.
That was bad. You know what? It led him to a good place, didn't it?
It did.
That interview.
Yeah, that was the beginning of
his cleaning himself up. So good for him.
Okay.
Anyway, I have that with smells. Do you have that with smells? Like I have this new, what do you call this? Product. That's what we put in our hair. Product. And I went back to one I used like literally 15 years ago. And I was put on this morning. I'm like, this smells like when my kids were little. It totally brought me back like to this nostalgic place of like when they were little, and it's just crazy.
That's how you know you're getting
really
old.
Weird.
Totally nostalgic.
Yes.
So we said something last week on the episode about why Brian posed the question, why don't we celebrate off years? And why is it always 10, 15, 20, 25 years? And why don't we celebrate 14? And Doug Drozen, Fact Checking Doug, who's a listener, sent me an email and said, I really appreciate, because we said maybe Fact Checking Doug Drozen can tell us why. And he puts like a little breadcrumb. It's like we're on a scavenger hunt now.
Yes.
He puts in his headline, "We Can Make It Happen" by Chicago. Well, "We Can Make It Happen" is a song. I think we might have talked about it years ago. And now I'm going through the lyrics of the song saying, is this a breadcrumb he's leaving for us that will give us the clue to why people don't celebrate
I don't know.
fives? Anyway.
Did you see the
Thanks,
guy?
Doug.
You ever heard about that guy who left that buried treasure out in the woods? It was on a news story this weekend. I can't remember this guy's name. Some eclectic artist guy left a buried treasure and left a poem with people, and like 15 people have died trying to find it. Some dude found it in Wyoming, but it reminds me of that. Like,
really?
is Doug pulling one of those on us? You know what I mean?
He'll be on the desert.
It's seriously going to die. Totally. I hope not.
All right, topic
Let's
today.
go, shall we?
Yeah.
Do I have the question? I do have the question, don't I? Here we go. Ready?
You do.
So we are in the podcast group. If you're not in the podcast group, go there, and we'll occasionally ask you for questions. Even if we don't, just tag me and Bill and say, hey, here's a good topic for an episode, fellas. So this is from Allison G. Allison G. Okay. She says, can't wait for the next episode. I didn't know if she meant Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre or if she meant the Advanced Link podcast, but we'll go with us. Here we go. She wants to talk about articulating value proposition. Here are a couple aspects she writes in here. Now, I love this. She said 2 aspects and then put 3 things, which I love about Allison.
Overachiever.
She is big time. I love this. No, she's great, though. Actually, I've talked to her a couple times. She's awesome. Number 1, solving a problem.
Was she the one that was on our Clubhouse that day?
No, that was a different person. The one. Yeah, we went live on the Clubhouse.
We ever did that.
Let's see. 2 aspects here. Number 1, solving a problem. So we're talking about value prop here. Old topic, right? Solving a problem can be perceived as soft. She says, my role is teaching resilience and minimizing risk of burnout, but communicating it as a bottom line problem can seem tone deaf, too big of a leap for people to connect the dots. Right? So that solving a problem can be perceived because you don't really have the problem. It's more of an opportunistic thing. That's where solve a problem becomes difficult, which I don't disagree with there. How do you create a first glance differential? So when everybody speaks about whatever, everyone sells, adding this, specialness to that. And then when someone says, I love this, give me more details, but you've given them what you think are the details, what sort of details could they be looking for? Right? That's a thing too. So this is all stuff when people are, to me, in her question, what people are looking for differentiation, that's a thing. And you're struggling sometimes to show them that.
Struggling?
I didn't mean to do that, but that's really funny that I did that. Struggling. I've got to go watch that interview again.
I'll say I got it on my speed dial. I'll send it right to you.
It's your ringtone.
It's always on paste. I just control paste.
When I call Bill, the ringtone's is struggling. Okay, sorry.
Okay, this is a confusing question, so you're going to have to. Can you recap it in one sentence?
Let's do.
What's the question?
I will try. We're talking about value propositions and what's the best way to go about it these days.
Do you think she is talking about when I'm actually talking human to human, or is it more
in a sales
marketing
process?
thing?
No, in a sales process. I'm in a conversation with another person who's going to buy my stuff or potentially buy my stuff, and she's asking about how should I position myself, value prop myself, what should I say that allows them to understand that, make a decision, yes or no, and to differentiate her from other competitors, perhaps, in a conversation.
Well, first off, I don't, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I'm not a big fan of the word value proposition because I feel like it discounts the real notion of value. The notion of value is wrapped around, does it solve a problem that I have, or does it get me to a future that I want to get to? So is it pain or is it pleasure? And how you are articulating your value should do one of those 2 things, either help someone see that they have a problem or help someone see that you can help them get to a new future. So I think we need to go a little bit deeper than just the value prop, as everybody calls it. And the second thing I think we do sometimes is we go into the root cause or how we are unique too quickly. I think we need to stay up in the symptom area. So like one of the things that I wrote about the other day, I said if you're selling headache medicine, and you know that the cause of headache is dehydration, you're probably not going to go out to the market and say, hey, we help you solve the problem of dehydration. Have you ever felt dehydrated? No. Because it's the headache that's the problem. That's the symptom that's going to cause someone to say, I want your solution. And so I think if we go too deeply into the root cause of the problem and the impact of the problem and forget about what's the symptom, what's happening around here that's going to cause you to even want to talk to me, I think we've gone too deep too quickly.
Yes. Goody's headache powder. You ever heard of Goody's headache powder? Don't they sponsor NASCAR? See, now I'm really putting myself in a position here, and I probably should rewind that.
Are they a sponsor of ours?
They should be.
Now they
before we get to that answer, let's take a look for, hey, if you're feeling bad, Goody's headache powder. Here's I always like to start with these problems, these questions, with an intrinsic look first. I think part of our problem with this whole topic is the intention behind it. And we spend so much time with our intention to try to get people or hook them or get them and that sort of thing, that drives us to these answers of like, oh, say this, ask that. I think it should be flipped around. You talk about this all the time, Bill, that, we should be discerning here. We should be vetting. We should be sorting. And so when I'm talking about my value prop, air quotes, it should have a little bit of that too. It should be polarizing. It should say what I do and what I don't do. And it should
who it's for and who it's for
and who it's not for. And I think we just need to be really strong and bold with those sorts of things. And I'm a huge fan of people drawing pictures around this. And if you think of a bullseye or a dartboard, let's say, our highest and best use, and the clients that we just like run to, the ones that we love, look and feel like this. Outside of that, we, jog to these in this middle realm of here's what they look and feel like. And these outside, so. If they get outside the ring, we tend to run away, that sort of thing. So what we're doing, instead of saying value prop, we're saying here's this again. I talked about this last time, spectrum, this grid, this place, people plot themselves on it. Then you'll get better answers. So because what you don't want to do is say something that hooks people. And that's what everyone looks for in this deal. If you try to differentiate yourself, you're dead on arrival. You're trying too hard. Don't be yourself, Like, seriously, it's like going on a date. Like, I'm going to try to impress this person, guy or girl or whatever. I'm like, don't, just be yourself. And they'll decide if they're impressed or not.
I just drew a grid here. And what I'm laughing about is I drew the grid and I had this as a spectrum here.
Yeah.
And then I had this as a spectrum here. And I'm trying to figure out, well, wait a minute. How do I get somebody in there? I should have done on the y-axis because you've got an x-y axis.
Very good.
But you said it. You said you're for certain people and you're not for certain people.
Yes.
You do certain things and you don't do certain things. And the way that you determine who is the ideal prospect is who do you do it for and what do you do. That's the quadrant you want to work in.
Absolutely. Yes.
So it's really two spectrums. It's who is it for and what do I do? And I think you're right, Brian. I think you got to be bold. I think the days of, we can make it work for you. It's like people are onto that. People know. They say, what do you mean? You can make, I don't really put in too many fiberglass pools, but I suppose I could see if I could make it work. Well, you're going to say, no, I want a guy that specializes in fiberglass. So I think you've got to be as polarizing as you need to be, not from being negative, just from saying, look, this is who we're for, this is who we're not for. If you're going to ask us to do this, we don't do this.
Yes.
Here's our specialty. And now you are really defining the kind of person who should show up for you, and you're not worried about value propositions so much. You're taking it and you're breaking it down so people can really get who you are and what you do.
Yes. There's a little trend on TikTok. Not a little trend. There's a little framework for a trend on TikTok that says, show me you're an advanced podcast listener without showing me you're an advanced podcast listener. That little trend, right? Yeah. And so that's what this is about. This is about being versus saying. This is about being your differentiation, who you are. Just be how you're different. Don't say it. Just be it. And that's where I think people get really hung up on this. They will know. And the differentiation element of it, that comes from them, not from us. They decide if they see difference or not. We don't, nothing I've never had this happen. It's so funny we're talking about this now out loud. I've never said something to somebody and they go, oh,
never.
My gosh. I am going to hire you. Where's the contract?
Mic
Where
drop.
do I sign? Because of what you just said. That never happens. It never happens. It doesn't. It's all the experiences and how you are and your energy and your thought and the questions that you ask, all that stuff. That's your differentiating factor.
That's your brand. That's what goes into your brand. And if your brand is trustworthy and reputable and helpful and resonates with people and you're useful in some way and relevant to their world, you're fine.
Yes.
You're fine. Don't overwork it.
Yes.
Don't overthink it. Don't overcrack it.
Yes. And you will find, your people will find you and you'll find them. You don't need to put any pressure around this. This is what we always, we tend to do too often is, we try to make everyone fit, and some just won't. And then you're like, then you're beating yourself up like, oh, what could I have said differently to get that? I'm like, nothing. You
and they were never a fit.
No.
They were never, ever going to buy.
No. Because they just didn't, for whatever reason, see you like people that buy from you see you. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
That's
a great topic, Liz. Thank you.
It really is.
Really good.
And I think one of the challenges that our listeners, that you all have, you listeners, that you didn't mean, that sounded really bad. They always talk about we need to talk to the listeners. You have pressure from your leadership to do this, and your bosses and your CEOs and your VPs of sales are telling you, we got to get better differentiating ourselves. And so you're taking all this pressure, like, how do I do this? You come to us, and then we say, don't worry about it. Just like be you. Right?
I do think, though, there is some work to do. And Liz, if you want to do some kind of exercise, which I think you were kind of starving for some kind of exercise or assignment.
Do that, sure.
Is make a list of all the things that your customer might be experiencing in their lives if they don't have you as a part of their life. And I'm not calling them even pains or pain points or problems, just experiences, Maybe they're not closing enough sales. In Brian and I's business, people might be experiencing, geez, we work really hard on a lot of prospects and we only close 20%. That seems like we could do better than that. Yeah. Okay, that might be one thing they're experiencing. Make a list of those experiences. We'll call them symptoms. And then get that list down to 4 or 5 things. Now, when you're talking to people about what you do, you can frame it in a way that they might be able to relate to.
Really good. Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I love this exercise bit. Here's another thing to do, Liz, and those of you listening still, if you're still with us, I'm kidding, is make a list of the people that most recently bought from you. Take 6, 8, 10 deals. Ask them, why did you pick me instead of somebody else? You will get all the answers you need right there. Then go ask 6 or 8 or 10 people who didn't buy from you, bought from somebody else, or stayed status quo. Why did you buy from someone else and stay status quo? You will get everything you need in those 2 exercises right there.
That's good.
You'll know everything you need to know.
Make sure you go to advancedsellingpodcast.com/insider. If you've not been up to speed or gotten up to speed on the Insider program, we meet once a month for 75 minutes, and we do
15.
live training on certain topics. We're going to be coming out with some of the topics that we'll be handling here in the next few months. So go check that out. Also, LinkedIn, advancedsellingpodcast.com/LinkedIn to join our group. And we will see you next time.
Love it. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.